and give me shelter, shelter. Simple life, it's all we want to live. Give me food, give me clothes, give me love and give me shelter, shelter. Yeah.
So welcome back to the We Too All Liberians Movement podcast, where truth meets resistance and resistance birth new thought. I'm your host tonight, Ayiti Williams, and tonight we pull back the curtain on diplomatic maneuvers steep in layers, history, strategies, symbolism, and power. Recently, the U.S. President Donald Trump extended a formal invitation to 5 African nations, including Liberia, reigniting an old pattern, the selective courting of African countries in times of U.S. strategic need. But what makes this moment different or dangerously familiar? In this outreach, an act of genuine diplomacy, or are we watching the chessboard move again, where our lands, leaders, and people become pieces in a game we didn't design? Tonight, we take a deep dive. Why these 5 nations? What the real agenda? Can Liberia finally move from a seat at someone else's table to building its own? Joining me tonight, I have on the podcast Mr. Gebah S. Kamara, as well as Mr. Nathaniel Herron. So we'll take this time to ask our 2 panelists to introduce themselves. They're no stranger to the platform. But yes, the floor is now open. We'll start with you, Mr. Gebah.
Good evening, Ayiti. Thank you again for inviting me over on the show, and looking forward to a fruitful discussions about the topics that we have lined up. I'm Gebah Sekou Kamara, a Liberian author, and I am a student of history. I call myself, I don't like to consider myself as a historian, though I do a lot of historical work and stuff, but I'm just passionate about Africa and bringing the truth and rediscovering ourselves, so I'm looking forward to sharing this space with you and Nathaniel, so to deep dive into the conversation ahead.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. So we'll pivot now to our contributor, Mr. Nathaniel Herron. The floor is now yours.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to extend my special thanks and appreciation to the host, Mr. Ayiti Williams, at least for inviting me to share this wonderful platform with a friend, Gebah Sekou Kamara. It is a privilege and honor to discuss issues affecting and impacting the lives of our people in Liberia, especially when it comes to contemporary time. For those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Nathaniel Herron, who is always right, at least about 99.9% of the time. I would strongly encourage you to tune in to We Too Liberian Movement, where facts matter. If you can share this podcast, share the podcast, and share the good news. I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much to our both panelists for coming. Tonight episode is titled Decoding Trump's Invite to 5 African Nations, Strategic Interest, versus African Agency. So to begin with, I'd like to start with you real quick, Mr. Gebah. We went ahead and we divided our show into segments. I believe we have 3 segments here for the benefit of time. We'll try to be as brief as possible. We're looking at least 30 minutes to 45, and then we'll just close up because I know that we all have our own busy schedule. But anyway, again, I want to thank both of you for coming in tonight. I think this is a really timely and sensitive topic that we need to kind of take a deep dive into. So, Gebah, I start with you. Liberia has always occupied a complicated, often symbolic role in the U.S. foreign policy. But this latest invitation feels less like nostalgia and more like calculation, I would say it that way. Why do you think these 5 nations were chosen? And is this about U.S. competition with China in Russia, resource extraction, or perhaps influence at the United Nations?
Well, thank you, Adrian. Just to dive deep into the question itself. People, I think a lot of time we forget as African, because I don't want to be very specific to Liberia, because this is an African problem, right? We don't forget that the Western nations, particularly America, or the Western nation as a whole, not to single out the United States, right? They don't have friendship. It's based on strategic interests. And for way too long, African leaders has always caved to these guys, considering them as friends, right? And we feel like we have to kiss their ass, excuse me, right?
Right.
And bend to the knee to appease them. And as soon as they get whatever they need out of us, they just back us, and just, cut us dry, right? And this has been a consistent theme in Western policy. It is about strategic interests. The invitation extended to these 5 African nations, right? These 5 African nations stand in a pivotal, moment right now in our time, especially when it comes to geopolitical, location. This is nothing new. Liberia was once, strategically located, in a perfect environment for America, especially during the Cold War, era, right? Liberia was highly needed, right? Liberia was strategically positioned to help the Allies, because of our mineral, right? What we provided to the Allied nation, right? What we provided iron ore, rubber. When rubber was not coming from Malaysia, when Japan cut off supply through those areas, where did they look, to supply the Allied troops? It was Liberia. So this is nothing new, It's just the same old boat. It's just been spinning around. But right now we have a different captain that is driving the boat. So I think, like my old man always used to say, don't refuse a call, but refuse what is in the call. So yeah, I think it was an honorable, for them to show up. You like it or not, the United States is the greatest nation in the world. Most powerful, most successful nation in the world, more wealthier nation in the world. When they on your side, for good reason, there's a lot of good things can come out of that. But we just got to be strategic, and I hope that the call to these African nations, they, I hope whatever is discussed benefit the people. So we can dive deep into, proposition as to why did they call these people, what's going to happen, what is it that the United States really need. We can talk more about that, but in a nutshell, I think it's about strategic interests, and that's what America is doing.
So I would like to do a follow-up question with you. Would you say that we're witnessing a pivot back to Cold War tactics, only now with Africa as the new front line?
Oh, absolutely. When you look at, we thought the Cold War was over, honestly, right? In the 90s, in the 90s, after the breakdown of, East and West Germany, the breakdown of, the Cool War between, East and West. We thought the Cold War was over, right? We thought democracy was pretty much the spring bowl that everybody was running to. There was so many democracy that was rising, a lot of nations, who were formerly, in the Soviet blocks, country that was, dictatorship, they all rise to democracy. There was so many offspring of democracy around the world. So we thought, the world was heading to a more peaceful place. until, and you know, when you look at it, for some of us, you know, we're a little bit older now, when you reflect back on those times, it looked like it was just yesterday, right? When everyone was celebrating for democracy all around the world. There was so many, you know, free and fair elections in African countries, in Eastern European countries, in Asia. All these places was, you know, democracy was fronting, you know, like a weed, just growing. But then all of a sudden, you know, come 2000, you know, and late 2000, a lot of these, you know, democratic nations backsliding back into totalitarian, you know, regime. And sad to say, even the United States, we can see, you know, the cradle of democracy itself, right? One of the oldest, or the oldest democracy on this, you know, constitutional democracy on this, you know, on this earth is backsliding. We see it happening right in front of us.
All right. So thank you for that response. So I want to quickly pivot to not here, and what I'll do is I'll just pivot to our second segment here real quick because we don't have enough time yet. Now, history of broken promises, and hopefully this can be a lessons or can be lessons on learning. So, for example, Agoya was sold as a tool for African trade expansion. Yet it disproportionately enriched foreign investors. If we look at PEPFAR or PEPFAR, saved lives, yes, but also what it did, it theatered African health sectors to U.S. pharmaceutical companies. And then we look at Africa, promised regional security, but instead embedded surveillance and militarization. So Nathaniel, my question to you, when we look at these past deals and partnership, what do you think they really tell us about the true cost of American engagement on African continent or African soil?
Well, as the saying goes, America does not have permanent friends. Instead, America has permanent interest. It's all about the survivability of the United States of America, as evidence of the recent statement, or maybe the policy of this current administration in presence of President Donald J. Trump. His America First policy, making America great again. The AFRICOM that you talk about, regional security, the AGOA Act, where you talk about African goods being exported to the United States. It's not all about the benefits of Africa. As a matter of fact, those 5 countries that you and I alluded, including Mr. Kamara, you talk about Gabon, you talk about Liberia, Mauritania, Guinea-Bissau, and Senegal. These 5 countries were invited. Quite honestly, they were not invited because of friendship or based on friendship. They was invited because of mutual interest that the United States has, that the United States tends to benefit. It's not about aid to Africa. In other words, it has been transformed from aid to trade or tariff. The United States government has imposed 10% tariff on countries like Liberia, the Mauritania, the Guinea-Bissau, the Senegal, and Gabon. 10% tariff. And who's going to pay those tariffs? It's going to be you and I. So it become indifferent nomenclature to say, well, we tend to help Africa. And so we came with the Agoya Act. We came with the AFRICOM. We came with this other one. We came with that other one. But the true nature here is America tends to benefit a whole lot from those arrangements that they get involved in with African countries. So those 5 countries, for example, that were invited, to be quite honest with you, it was just all about platitude. If you even listen to the interaction, it was just about showering President Trump with praises. I don't know whether it was well organized by all of these African leaders, because it was done in a perfect synchronization process, from one platitude of the president of Africa to another platitude from another president of Africa to another showering of praises and platitudes to the president of the United States of America. For example, the president of Senegal, I think he was the youngest among them.
Sure.
He is talking about President Trump building a golf course in Senegal. Are you serious? You're coming to meet the president of the United States of America, and you say you're a good golf player. You hope that America can build, or President Trump can build, a golf course in Senegal. Then you have another president, and President Trump was telling, hey, time, we got to go. I hate to say this, but unfortunately, our president, Joseph Walker, was given an opportunity. He was given a platform, and it was squandered. Within my opinion, he didn't do good with the platform. We all know President Trump and the kind of personality that he is. Even if you didn't know him, you look at the recent visits of other presidents visiting him, how they were demeaned. For example, Ramaphosa from South Africa. We heard and saw President Trump accusing South Africa of white genocide. He said, well, black people killing white people in South Africa and taking the white people's land and giving it to the black people of South Africa. And he had a propaganda video shown to the president of South Africa, not knowing that video was not authentic. The video was taken in a different country. I don't know who gave it to him. It probably could have been someone else, but it was not authentic. And we saw how dehumanizing it was for the president of South Africa. We also witnessed what happened with President Trump and President Vladimir Zelensky of Ukraine. Mr. Kamara, who is a historian, I think he can dive deep into that one. We saw the way he dehumanized Vladimir Zelensky and said, you don't have the cards. And the man said, we're not playing cards here. And he also said, well, had not been for the assistance from the United States, Ukraine would have been owned by Russia by this time. In fact, we're going to take 2 weeks. And Zelensky said, in fact, 3 days. 3 days. Apparently, he was just being resentful. And so we all know the kind of person President Trump is. President Trump has the attitude of looking down on people, to be quite honest with you.
I want to hold you there for a second, because I have a whole session that we're going to
sure, that's fine.
Try to actually pound on that, take a deep dive into that, especially as it relates to Buckeye's, beautiful English or whatever that Trump was actually focused. But I have a follow-up question and for you as it relates to these broken promises and the lessons unlearned. Have any of these so-called partnership been structured? We talk about the Agora, the PEPFAR, African, all of that. My question again will be, have any of these so-called partnerships been structured with Liberian or African sovereignty in mind, or are they always about control?
Well, to be quite honest with you, they don't care about Africa. It's all about the United States. Like I initially stated from the onset, America does not have permanent friend in Liberia or any other country in Africa. They have permanent interest. Past administration came with lots of promises, and some of them actually work on those promises. You had the Peace Corps. When I get born, when the Peace Corps was operating, it was all America's soft power. We have USAID. United States aid. These are all America's soft powers. President Trump, through executive action, demolished and decimated those programs. And I know how the programs are very, very helpful. It helped to promote the United States, especially the rice, our staple food. I remember back in those days during the war, or getting those rice from the United States, you have the United States flag on those bags of rice. So again, it is a broken promise, but it is not an act of legislation from the United States Congress. It is President Trump that is taking executive action. You can't say the American people, because the American people are represented through the Congress. So when you say broken promises, of course. So the next president of the United States, maybe he may come and rescind all of President Trump's executive action with a stroke of a pen to say, I'm rescinding it. And I'm reinstituting this. So, for example, places like Gabon. Gabon has a quarter of magnesium reserve of the world. 22% of magnesium has been exported to a country like China from Gabon. You talk about uranium. Mauritania has uranium, the same magnesium, and even oil. Gabon also has oil. Mm-hmm. Do you think the partnership the United States trying to engage with this country, do you think is for those countries to benefit? It's not for the country to benefit. The country will not benefit as compared to the United States. The United States tend to benefit more. So when you talk about these organizations, or maybe the African and whatever you talk about, other president came and did what they had to do. To a certain extent, Africa must have benefited a little bit, but if you look at it holistically, America tend to benefit more. And once the benefit is over, America gone. They're not going to stick around. That's the way I see it.
So then I think I'll stay with you on that note, and we'll talk about who actually set the terms. Since you're talking about Africa, in fact, we know has 60% of the world's uncultivated land. And when it comes to, in fact, cobalt, Africa has about 80 and 90%. So you're saying that you think this meeting was actually pointed to, to counter Chinese or maybe Russians' influence in Africa? You think that was the sole purpose? Or maybe was it about, I would say, because I thought about it today. Do you think it's just about resource security, or maybe we can say geopolitical alliances?
Well, to be quite honest with you, China is a major competitor to the United States right now. And China is having a tremendous inroad into Africa. Like I previously stated, 22% of China's magnesium that they use right now is from Gabon. And Gabon holds a quarter of the world's reserve magnesium. So of course it has to be concerning to the United States to say, if we sit and allow China to take charge or to take over, we might be left behind. So it is based upon that, within my opinion, the United States decided to say, you know what, let us extend our partnership, and for those that we already had an existing partnership with them, let's see if we can reinforce it and rebuild it. That's all. It has nothing to do with them liking me and you or liking Africa. I don't know. Maybe Mr. Kamara can come in, but to me, it has nothing to do with that. So it all has to do with the United States benefiting and Africa getting the short end of the stick.
Okay, then I'll pivot to Mr. Gebah and see. Let's ask his opinion as it relates to the same questions or the question that I just asked. What's your take on America's invitation? So I know you already talked about it, but at the same time, just with respect to what Nathaniel just stated, what would you say in that regards with America's presence or in that on the continent, especially using those 5 countries that were invited to have a sit and talk with Trump?
I mean, I think I just picked back on what Nathaniel just said. Which they mentioned earlier. America, the Western country as a whole, they don't have, like you said correctly, permanent friendship, permanent interest, right? And once they exploit that interest with you, when that interest die down, they gone. They look for the next big thing that is up there, right? And granted, we can't hate them for. I mean, we can hate or we can love them for that, or we can have opinion or no opinions, right? But that is how they conduct their foreign policy, right? It is us who, the Africans and others, who embrace these things from a very naive point, right? That these people come and sign some contractual deal, deals, right? And few individual in government benefit from there, and to shower these guys around as being our friends. No, I mean, you look at it right here too. You and I've been living among these people for a very long time. I hate to use the word, white, right? Because now it goes to the race, but just in itself, the interaction with people here is strictly monetary, financial, or interest based. What can they get out of you at that time? The interest, I mean, they would be your friend for that time because the interests align. But once those interests don't align any longer, you move on to the next thing. So with regards to America, America, remember, after Obama left, America had backslid away from Africa, right? What you call it? When Biden came in, Trump came in, it came with America First agenda. This is not his second, this is not his first America First agenda. It was during his first term, and the second term is the same. And now you have a huge proportion of American, voters who voted for him, right? Because there's nothing that Trump is doing that he didn't say he was going to do during the election. That we were going to withdraw from the world. We were going to move back. Everything he said he was doing. I don't believe a lot of things Trump said. But one thing I can tell you for sure, everything he's doing, he said he was going to do it. And that's why, really, when I see some people being hurt by his policy, it doesn't really, the cynic in me try to be like, what? We give you an option. This is the option you choose. So election have consequences. But to go back to why America is now seeking, new alliances in Africa, particularly those 5 countries, is because of the new economy that is being built, right? Not for oil. America got more oil reserve than the entire world, actually. When you look at it strategically, America have a lot of oil reserve that they can go on. But I do understand they keep there, for strategic interests. And they exploit oil in other places. Gabon don't have the kind of oil to supply America with, right? Neither Guinea-Bissau or any of these places. But remember, the economy has changed now. It's not about building big plans and all that stuff. It's AI technology. And AI technology is based on mineral. And half of these minerals that AI is being built on, most of them is found in Africa, right? China have few minerals that they were, supplying to America to help America in most of the, technology, machinery, military machine hardware and all that stuff. But China, because of the whole, tariff and trade war, China have limited that. I think I just heard recently they agreed to start again, but at a very minimal level. So they need expansion for the AI technology. And that is why these African countries become very important. It is not about, putting military bases in those places. Because the way we fight war back in the day is no longer there. A guy can sit right here in, Scranton or Harrisburg and, send a drone or release some viruses and stuff into computers and hardware, and commit economic sabotage, all kinds of different sabotage. So it's not about, putting their foot in these places, but how can they tap into, the new mineral that is, very important in, spearheading the AI revolution, because America is not alone. This is the next big frontier that we have, and that is why they're looking into these African countries. So I mean, for me, again, as much as we want to, fight America or be fought them for, the way they approach or their strong arms, approach, we just gotta, sit by and ask African leaders, when are you going to learn? When are you going to put the interests of the people first rather than your own personal interest? So that when you go to the negotiation table, you are negotiating, understanding that you are trying to plant a tree that you probably may not even climb, right? A tree that you may not live to eat the fruit of it. But that is what we call nation building. You plant a tree for the next generation to climb on it, right? Or you plant a tree so that the fruit that is bear off that fruit for the next generation. So the leader has to start thinking that way. And this young man in Burkina Faso, he's doing that already. African leaders can learn from him, honestly. So I mean, that's literally, my point on that, on that issue with regards to, why America is seeking new frontier in Africa. I think it's the AI revolution.
All right. So, I mean, you made some very, very valid points there, and that would take me back. I think I would try to stay on this, the agency dilemma, I mean, who, again, like I said earlier on, who set the term? If we have all the resources, right, we have all the natural resources that, technology now needs, or to be able to advance, in technology and things of sort. So then it means that we should be in the driver's seat. We should actually control and write the narrative. And that will bring me to something I saw doing the interview yesterday. And I want to talk about symbolism, which is not sovereignty, what I mean? An invitation don't equal equity. Just because we have 5 presidents that were invited down, and they didn't really prove that, or they're at the same level. And it was proven yesterday. So President Barker was asked a question, and he responded. After he responded, Trump actually spoke and said that he spoke very good English. Herron, I want you to really talk about that. Do you think that was a perfect opportunity? What would you say about President Barker's response when Trump? I thought that, I don't even want to say that it was derogatory or demeaning or maybe condescending. I want to hear, you're one of the panelists here. What would be your take on Barker's response? I thought, given the opportunity.
Well, as a matter of fact, the summit was a trade summit or economic summit. It was not an extra English tutoring class that Barker was attending. And like I said, looking back at the President Trump, we should know what kind of person he is. To me, within my opinion, it was a missed opportunity by the President of the Republic of Liberia. Because it is very difficult for President Trump to give you a platform. And if he gives it to you, which of course I think he did, to Barker and to Liberia, I think it was squandered. I understand the platitude and the shower of praises that he bestowed upon President Trump. But from the very moment that President Trump said, you speak beautifully, where did you go to school? Well, you guys speak, where did you learn your English from? I think immediately he should have seized the moment. He should have expanded on that conversation. As a matter of fact, I think he was selfish to a certain extent. I think President Barker was extremely selfish. He was selfish in the sense that he wanted the praise for himself, because President Trump oppressing him. Whereas, in contrast, he could have spread the blessing across the prudent plain of Liberia. Now, all of us would have been glorified in the sense to say Liberia is an English-speaking country. We speak English in our country. Besides that, he could have given the historicity of our country, Liberia, with its tie to the United States. Either through willful and blatant ignorance from President Trump, or he does not know history to pretend like he doesn't know whether Liberia is an English-speaking country. But let's just assume that he doesn't know history, or let's just assume it was a willful and blatant ignorance on his part. President Bouaka should have seized that opportunity. Since President Trump made mention of President Bouaka English being a profound and beautiful English, if you check Google's search or research on Liberia, it has skyrocketed. You got millions of people doing research on Liberia. So what if President Bouaka has said, let me give you the historicity of this country. This country was founded by free American slaves through the ACS. We all know the history. I'm not going to go through all that. President Trump would have been more amazed and even more interested. Again, I'm not taking anything away from President Trump to say he doesn't know history. I say apparently he does not know history. Apparently it was just another blatant way of just ignoring and disrespecting other leaders, like African leaders, like what happened to South African president and Vladimir Zelensky from Ukraine. So it was a missed opportunity, and Bouaka showed that he was very selfish, because he could have told the president to say, but we speak English. English is our official language. English is our first language. Despite the fact we have 16 other traditional languages, of which I can speak 2 or 3, and other people can speak 2 or 3, or 4 or 5, or some people can even speak 10. But he didn't do that. Or he said, thank you, sir. Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Bouaka, come on, man. Come on, man.
Why was he, to a large extent, it seemed like he felt I understand his humility and respect. If you were placed in that in that particular position, what would have been your response right there? Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't know whether he was caught off guard. And if he was caught off guard, it means he was not prepared for the movement. He was just not prepared for the movement. For example, if I was provided such an opportunity like that, I'm Nathaniel Herron, who is always at least right about 99.9% of the time, I'm going to see the show. I'm going to promote my country. If President Trump, for some reason, I said, my man, you speak beautifully, like what he said about Bouaka, I would have said, Mr. President, Liberia is an English-speaking country. As a matter of fact, our capital city was named in honor of your 5th president, in person of James Maroon, and our first president, Joseph Jingin Rao. We took everything from the United States or emulated. Even our churches, if you even go in our country right now, the way how you guys build your houses here, we still have that model style of structure. You go places like Indiana, I'm from Grand Bassa County. Go places like Grand Bassa County. You're going to see the same old thing we see around here. So I would have schooled the president. And I would have even made people to do more research on Google. Instead, I would not just sit down and say, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, you get beautiful English. Then I start smiling. Smiling for what? Smiling for what? What is so funny? Then you telling the president of the United States, say, you can come and solve our mineral. The men are Bassa men that are selling land around. He tend to guy his own. I mean, on the serious note, the men are tend to release a man or son of God. How you reducing the president of the United States? They can't solve it. The Bassa men that are selling to 3 or 4 presidents at the same time.
But now I want to hold you on that. Now, you think if Bouaka was a nationalist or was thinking my level, maybe as a Pan-Africanist, do you think he would have responded?
He has no worldview.
In a different manner.
Of course, most definitely, he has no worldview. And like I said, unlike places like the United States, United States politics is just based strictly on ideological differences. You have conservatism, you have progressivism.
Yes.
All right. Now, in Liberia, my man, it's not about ideological differences.
Sure.
I see you, I like you, you can get better rest. I'm voting for you 1 billion %. I want to know what you're talking. Let's put it in elaborate English. So Bwaka does not have any specific worldview that he can espouse out there. Like, for example, the Pan-Africanism that you talk about. There's somebody like Ibrahim Traoré from Burkina Faso. He's a Pan-Africanist. He believes in African liberation. He believes in African independence. To tell you, my man, the land is owned by Africa. Everything that is on the land is being owned by Africans. And we will never compromise in upholding what is right.
So now, I want to hold you on that note. Now, speaking as a contributor to We Too movement, we believe in changing thought process and changing mindset. So now that we're talking about changing the trajectory or the contour of how our people should be thinking, do you think that we should say, why it's true that people, one would say, it's been said that Liberia is an English-speaking country, should we now begin to rewrite the narrative to say that English, in fact, should be our second language, and our indigenous language now should be our first language or languages?
Yeah, we had a discussion before. I think it was Dr. Temwe and I were on this very show. Yeah, we can do that. Like places like Ghana, you know, they did it in a regional form. For example, this region would be able to speak this language, and this other region will be able to speak this language, and the other region will be able to speak this language and teach this language in school. It's still not late yet. But to be honest with you, it will be a daunting task for Liberia. Because for some of us who were growing up, we heard that President Tolbert, who was president for 9 years, wanted to have made Pele the official language. For whatever reason, President Tolbert wanted to have done that. I think that time it was a lot more easier because you never had too many people involved in national discussion on national issues. So it was just a bunch of so-called prominent political elite class that would just sit and discern judgment on the country. And whatever way they think, it will be the way the country will go. Now, in contrast, contemporary politics right now, for example, like I said, I'm from Grand Bassa County. I'm a Bassa man. We occupy pretty close to 6 different counties. So arguably, I would tell you, but if we're making any of these, tribes or language to be the official language, why not Grand Bassa County? And somebody will get on and tell me, say, my man, why not Bon County? Because Pele seems to be a lot more easier. And maybe the Maningo man will say, okay, but my man, Maningo is a regional tribe. All West Africa will get Maningo there. So let us use Maningo. Maybe the environment will say, we are very quiet people. So it will be tough. But I don't have a problem if we can identify one language to say it will be our national language. But it will be a daunting task. That's why I can tell you, but it's still doable.
Okay, so let's leave that for a little bit and pivot to this maybe I would say second to last segment, comparative lens, lesson learned from the global South. So in Southeast Asia and Latin America, countries like Vietnam, Brazil, and Mexico have found ways to leverage U.S. interests without giving away their sovereignty. I mean, they often pit global powers against each other to extract more favorable terms. Nathaniel, what can African leaders learn from these regions? Is non-alignment still a viable strategy in a multipolar war?
Well, I believe in alliances. We got the word is a global village. And we can emulate from these United States again. Because let's just assume the United States will always set the standard of measurement. Now, if President Trump can come up with his America First policy agenda and make America great again, we can do the same. We can still form partnership with the United States. We can also be independent, autonomous. We can do it regionally. For example, I'm from West Africa, Liberia from West Africa. We have sub-regions in the entire African continent. So I would be very much specific to stick to our country, Liberia. We have the Mana River Basin right there, comprising of 3 countries. We'll get Guinea, we'll get Sierra Leone, we'll get Liberia. We'll form a robust and genuine partnership with them. If possible, we can even use one currency. If possible, we can bring articles on board for it to be 4 countries. You hover the Sahara over there. You got Mauritania over there. You get Burkina Faso over there. You get Niger. Some of those guys, in fact, those guys are saying they don't even want to be part of ECOWAS. 3 of the countries. Say, we don't want to be part of Africa. The very Burkina Faso you talk about. We don't want to be part of ECOWAS. So if we do the subsetting of the continent, then later on we can come to a complete conglomeration or addition or addendum of all of those sub regions. We put it together to make it one region. That way we have leverage to go and negotiate. But if you don't do it and you decide to go solo, you are looking not stand or withstand the power of the United States or any other global power, because you're nothing. For example, Liberia is probably the size of Ohio. There's one state the size of Ohio. You talk about negotiating with the United States. In fact, that's some of the things that really got me so much disappointed in President Bwaka, for you to literally be begging on war stage to say, my man, to say, hey, we get mineral, you can come solve it. The men ambassador to do survey in that place, you can't solve it. If you do that, you have given up your leverage when it comes to negotiation. The man can come and tell you, say, look, man, I'm going to give you 20% and I'm going to take 80%. You don't have the leverage to negotiate with the man because you already told the man you can't solve it. But the man doesn't never have to come and take compasses and come and solve it. The man has technological advancement that will be able to point exactly where the minerals are. And they deposit them under the ground. You ain't got to come sit down there. So if you start begging the man, say, oh, my man, please come and do survey, we get mineral. You are giving up your leverage. The man somebody is desperate. I would just tell you, my man, we're taking 8%, give you 20%. If you want it, fine. If you don't want it, so be it. So what are you going to do now, President Bwaka? If you tell the man, say the man will come and do survey, you get plenty of mineral. So it's that. So we can still form partnership. In other words, I still believe in alliances. In other words, a global village. But in the meantime, we can strengthen our resolve. We can strengthen our position. We can come together. The one currency thing, of course, we can come with one currency, whether you like it or not. But yeah, imagine country like Liberia, people in China facing our money. Can you imagine your legal tender currency? You can't even make it yourself. You made a Chinese man for that man will make plenty of money, my man. Just divide all over your citizens. The value will go down. These are things that Africans supposed to start thinking. Say we want to be autonomous. But how the hell will be autonomous? Someone making our money. The men are making our money. We got to get it. Like for instance, the man it will tell the man, say, please print pretty close to $2 billion Liberian dollars. If I print the $2 billion, you probably have to give me $50 million United States dollars to print the $2 billion. And who knows? That $2 billion that you actually I'm going to print $3 billion and get $1 billion to small man and say, man, you're going to invest in that country. It's sad.
So then my question to you as a follow-up question, what tool do you think we need, political, economic, or cultural, to actually negotiate from a place of strength?
Oh, we need everything. We need everything. But for now, we are in demand. Like the way my brother Kamara rightfully said, technological advancement through AI, compelling people to form alliances right now. China is not joking. And most of the mineral deposits that can do those kind of work, for example, the magnesium, you talk about the uranium and things you talk about, it's been placed right in the continent of Africa. So we can use it as a leverage. But again, we have a bunch of setups among us. Liberia number one. I keep telling people that Abraham to already picking up people preaching. If the West really want to gain, let it go through Liberia. We're saying in a heartbeat, we're getting on platter, on silver platter, and say, yeah, you're taking a crucify him. We can do that easy. You can try Liberia, man. Easy.
All right. So I thank you so much. Thank you so much. I like your response. It was very strong. It's very resistive. I want to pivot to Gebah here, asking this one question. So Gebah, should African leaders reject closed door diplomacy and demand transparency in all international negotiations?
Man, before I answer, I just want to pivot by on the previous question you asked with regards to the shenanigan that happened in the White House with Trump and Bwaka. Herron, thanks for your powerful response, and I think you hit the nail right on the head. I never thought about it the way you actually put it in terms of the selfishness. I did definitely understood that it was a lost opportunity. And I did not even actually heard it. It was my wife who heard on social media, and she's like, "Oh my God, I couldn't stand this disrespect." I'm like, "What happened?" She called me right away. I was at work. I was like, "What happened?" She's like, "Did you see what Trump just told our bro president?" I'm like, "What?" And then I kind of followed through and listened to it. I was like, "Oh wow." But I have different opinions in terms of, and some of them align with what Nathaniel said. Right? It was a lost opportunity. Lost opportunity. Now, like he said correctly, Trump may be willfully ignorant, or he was just blatantly acting like a fool, or he just wanted to, pretty much reuse the racist card, because that is not a strange question that comes from American to us.
Sure.
Those of us who live here have experienced that. We have been in spaces where they don't expect us to be there. And when we open our mouths to speak, the questions are, "Oh, where did you go to school? Oh, where you learn to speak English?" Or perhaps we appear in those rooms, they don't even anticipate that we would speak in a clear language for them to understand, right? That preconceived notion is already there. That prejudice is already determined. So for what happened in the White House in front of the entire world, this is something that we experience in everyday America as immigrants, as Black folks, even Black Americans that live here. And that's why my wife was mad, because my wife, she's Black American. So yeah, she worked with Federal Reserve, being there first year from college. She had taken half of the payment system in this country. But she goes in room to present to people, a bunch of white people. She might be the only Black person in that space, because not a lot of Black people in the space. They don't expect her, her name. She's taking care of her African name, because her dad is Nigerian. So when they hear her Nigerian name and they hear her articulation, of the English language, and her knowledge about, the technology that involved with America, a financial system, she always get these kind of statements. "Oh, you sounded so well. When did you go to school here?" So it is not new. But to, Nathaniel's point, "Oh, I wish this was me."
I tell you,
I wish I was in that room.
I wish it was me.
But just to add,
you give me that platform. You get her on that platform. You ask me where you went to school. Your English so good. Because you know one door.
Exactly. But I will give the old man a grace, because he's an old man. He's slow. He's 80-something years old. He wasn't fast on his feet. And like you said, he was kind of almost like caught in a deer headlight. Right?
Yeah.
But then again, it could be part of what you just said earlier, because I never really thought about that selfishness. And because Trump was praising him among all these other African countries, leaders that only spoke French, and he's seen to be, the prince of the American president.
I'm the man right now.
That's me. But I agree with you 100%. And I talk about this in my books, in my writing, right? We have not sold Liberia to America, particularly Black America. And Black Americans themselves, some of them don't even know Liberia speak English.
Wow.
They don't know.
Yeah, a whole bunch of them.
A whole bunch of them don't even know. And it become a missed opportunity, because guess what? The whole meeting, the idea behind the meeting has lost. Every social media page you turn, you got like 2.2 million people like or comment on that particular thing that, Trump asking a Liberian president whether he speak English when the English is an official language in there. But then again, to Nathaniel's point, that would have been a moment. That 2.5 million would have turned to probably 200 million people.
Easy.
If he was fast, if he had that intellect, he's an old man. He's slow to think, to process. So I was giving grace on that part, but it was a lost opportunity.
Jiba, you know, I want to piggyback on that. I know I had a question for you, but I also want to add, and I know Nathaniel said something very profound, that you know, American citizens here, they actually, you don't just you don't make alignment based on the fact that, you know, maybe you're a relative to someone. It's actually based on ideology and things like that. That's how you align to a particular political party and things like that. So in the context of what happened yesterday, I would say, you know, we keep saying that you give him grace. It's true, give him grace. But if President Walker, you know, ideology was deeply rooted in the Pan-Africanist, you know what I mean, mentality, then we'll be going back to who are the founders of civilization. Maybe we can even talk about Look Trump. Maybe you don't even know. We actually, the very first university, the University of Sinkori, University of Timbuktu in the city of Sinkori, we built it. You know what I mean? The University of Genève, we actually established it. Even the University of Salamanca in Spain, we built it. Then we educated the man, because the truth is Africa was artificially carved in the 1800s, right? So it was the same European who carved our continent, because we all were one people. So now we're giving him historical facts that when it comes to education, we started the alphabet. You know what I mean? Yep. All that stuff. So Trump now will know that, yes, these people, fundamentally, they are educated people. They started civilization. They started educating our people, because the real truth is, when our women were wearing sock clothes, these people were living in cages. You know, we built homes, we built civilization. So how is it that now he would come and try to demean our people? So if Walker were coming from that perspective to enlighten Trump, then now we'll actually be supporting the young man, Ibrahim Traoré, who now is deeply rooted in this Pan-Africanism. I thought that, I just want to kind of, you know, spill that out.
Spot on, Ayiti, spot on.
To another point too, though, right? I am very, you know, flabbergasted that, or totally confused as to why President Trump was not abreast about this country, whether it was done or didn't.
I think Herron said something like that today when we were talking.
Herron said that it didn't happen, because I'm a guest, right? I'm the host, and you have all these guests coming to my house. Yes. I need to know where they're coming from. I need to know something about
the interest now. He was not interested in the people.
Mr. Kamara, the protocol is all set. There is no way that a foreign dignitary, especially the head of states for different countries, will come and visit the president of the United States of Liberia or the United States of America without then giving a historicity or synopsis of where this president is coming from. They will give the name of the president, the capital city. They will do all of that. Again, Trump does not. Yes, Trump does not have the history of reading. The brother just can't read.
He doesn't read. Yeah, he doesn't.
Doesn't read. So, in fact, I will even push it farther. I think Trump treated our African leaders like savages.
No, he did. He did.
That's what he did. Because if you are going to take them to be VIP, like very important personalities, he would have gone through. He would have gone through whatever thing they put on the decks. 5 countries. It's not much country to learn. Know their names. Know the president. Know the language. Know the capital city of the major food.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
And show interest. Because building friendship is about interest, right?
He didn't care. He treated them as savages.
Me showing you likeness about it, even if asking you for your son. You know, what's your kids? What's your wife? You know, how those things going on. Those are the way you build friendship, right? Because you share common interest. He didn't have interest in these guys.
He didn't because he had no interest in them. And the reason why whatever memo they put before his decks, maybe they put it there the night before he met those guys. Mr. President, get a memo here. Liberia free, or funded by free American state, whatever. They put all the thing in there. So you even look at the thing there, I can say with absolute ontological certainty, you didn't even look at it. He just took and put it one side. He said, "My man, those guys are all bunch of plebeians." I just want to tell it any way I want to tell it anybody. If I can look at Hillary Clinton and tell her she's such a nasty woman, I can look at the plebeians and tell them, say, I'm not even looking at any document that my staff or my handlers, because he has handlers, and they put it before him.
Yeah.
He's not looking at it. So the fact that he came with that preconceived notion that those guys are plebeians, and when Baka spoke, he's like, wait a minute, so the guys are really not savages or plebeians. That what got him surprised and stunned. But it shows the kind of indignation he looks at people with.
Yes.
I mean, we all know that.
Yes, that interaction, that alone, it says a lot.
That's a
it was a missed opportunity by these African leaders. That's why I said they should have coordinated. The 5 countries should have coordinated. They should have said,
Herron, just to add, I think this is a perfect opportunity now for us to.
Ayiti, let me not, cut you off. But again, right? And we talk about Pan-Africanism and these African leaders even knowing their own history about Africa. A lot of these people don't, because that would also be a shared movement for one of those other African leaders to shine.
Yeah.
To buttress. Oh, but Mr. President, Liberia was funded by you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So
exactly.
They knew, but most of them, I mean, they were all like just stoned and like.
They want to beg. They want to beg.
Yeah.
But it was not about aid anymore. The whole entire summit, it was not about aid. He has transitioned from aid to tariff. The mentality said, I'm putting 10%. So your real order, your labrampo, your love toboggy business. Now your toboggy real, you're eating the toboggy order coming, are putting 10% tariff. You love to play Lulu. So when you're taking your Lulu board from Liberia, you're putting it on the continuum, are putting 10% tariff. Mm-hmm. So they may have transition. Yeah. Now, the AGWA you're talking about, when you talk about African Growth and Opportunity Act, the AGWA you're talking about, it's just something like duty free on certain commodities. And I think have been in existence all along. Mm-hmm. Trunking, he decimated it. He doesn't care.
No. And that's a good point there that you just raised. And I want to hold you on that point. Because I don't know if you guys listened to the question and answer period from the journalists. They did not even ask these African leaders more than 1 or 2 questions on pertinent issue that is affecting them from the decision that Trump made. Yeah. To ask them, how does it affect you from the decision that Trump made now that you're trying to enforce new alliance with this man? Yeah. But he got USAID, he got USAID, he got foreign policy, he got travel ban from your country, he got XYZ. How do you guys feel about this? How does that translate to this new alliance? They didn't even ask that. They were asking Trump all the stupid questions about, his immigration stuff, who wrote what, Biden, super pen. I mean, they didn't even ask these guys. Like, they were not even in the room. That was another shameful thing that happened. The only question that actually came to the African leader when the lady talked about Trump being nominated for Nobel Peace Prize, and that was when they all came in to say, yeah, they agree. The DRC that we talk about here, right? African countries have been trying to bring peace in that place, but because the West had never want peace to come in that place, they separated that country into chaos, because out of chaos, they benefit, right? And that's what chaos does. Out of chaos, people benefit at a cheap level too, right? Yeah. So how then can this white man from nowhere show in some of all these 2 African leaders that have been fighting for almost, 30 years or more and bring peace among them? I mean, what sense does that even make? That your own brothers can't even make peace with you, but you have to come back to your colonizer. You got to come to your colonizer to get peace from there. And all because you have a mineral that is very important to the new technology that we're talking about.
Yeah, that's just to show how
Mr. Kamara, I used to just a second, Mr. Kamara, again. African leaders have shown that we are on a steep, spiraling decline.
Yeah, of decadence.
Yeah.
All of the time of decadence.
Decadence and filth.
Yes. Moral decline, cultural decadence.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if the president of the Republic of Liberia, who apparently I don't, he was not swift on his feet, for him to tell President Donald J. Trump to say, "I support your America First agenda." Does he know America First agenda?
Exactly.
You support.
It's a slogan.
This is a man that deporting people to third countries. So the people that he deporting, it's possible that one or two Liberians may be there.
Right.
How you feel they send your citizen all the way to Guatemala? You get any means of taking your citizen from that Guatemala prison to Liberia, and you say you support America First agenda? What is America? What is President Trump America First agenda that you support?
Yeah, what that got to do with you anyway?
What kind of, how you say you support the man when in fact some of our people are on TP as a temporary protection status? He has eliminated it. According to him, he's going after hardcore criminals. But statistics have shown he just wants to meet the quota or meet the number of at least arresting or deporting not less than 3,000 persons per day.
Yeah.
So if you are in his crosshair, by looking for you, you're going for work, you're going to work, and you just enter that man's crosshair,
yeah,
ICE is gonna take you.
Oh yeah.
Because he wants to meet that number.
Yeah.
Because what he told the American people, I am going after criminals alien.
Mm-hmm.
Where are those criminal aliens that you're going after?
That we don't know them. We never seen
Somebody wrote an op-ed in a newspaper. That's the man's opinion. You're going to grab the man, arrest the man, and send the man to Louisiana and send the man to jail?
Yeah.
That the alien criminal there? So what happened to freedom of speech? The man is just saying, look, my man, that war between Israel and Palestine is an unjust war. Israel is not respecting international laws. You grab the man, he said, my man, come and deport you. He sent the man all the way to Louisiana, that the criminal alien. So what is America First policy that President Baka supports?
He doesn't understand it.
He doesn't understand. What kind of thing is that?
He just want to use it because he's trying to see that, it probably might put him in the right corner with Trump. He already.
So, gentlemen, I know this particular topic is quite interesting.
Yeah.
We're a little over an hour now, but I'm really impressed that we're able to share our sentiments, our views. It shows that we really love our country. But it was obvious yesterday that as we decode this to say that Trump invited those 5 presidents just to dictate to them he had no interest or has no interest in Liberia. And so for those of you who are just tuning in, you're watching the We Too Are Liberians Movement platform. This is what we do. We are in the business of not manufacturing players, pimps, and hustlers, like we say, but we're in the business of changing and revolutionizing the thought process of our people, not only in Liberia, but even around the world. And I want to thank both of you for coming tonight. I have one more question, because I see that, there's a lot to be said here. Who will actually watch yesterday's interview or visit at the White House, and wouldn't, being an African or Liberian nationalist or a Pan-Africanist, wouldn't have something to say. My last question here, I know we've said all of that. One would say, how are we closing the show? Let me ask both of you this question. I mean, is it time for Liberia to revisit its bilateral agreement and demand renegotiation based on today's realities? What would be your take in 1 minute, Gebah, and then Herron, and then we try to conclude here.
I mean, bilateral agreements that were made prior to, this administration, these are international laws that we have to, adhere to, right? They may not, some of the terms of those agreements may not benefit, the larger populations of Liberia, but unfortunately it's because of the individual that we have consistently elected, and put them in position of trust, make these decisions often on behalf of themselves. Honestly, they're just wearing the Liberian flag behind them, but most of the terms of the agreement actually goes to benefit them. It have never really benefited the people We did talk about how Africa as itself, we digress, in every aspect of life. And it's a video of Tubman that I don't know why it came on my feed, but I watched that video. I'm gonna share with you. You guys should watch that video. Honestly, it really educated me to a whole different level. It made me question myself. Tubman being gone, I don't know how many years now, but the progress that they made, the places, the things that Liberia was engaged in, the international scene that Liberia, the mark that Liberia made. Liberia was the country of envy. Everywhere in the world, people wanted to go. Every leader that Tubman met, he was highly respected. Every international agreement today that we cherish, he had the signature on it, Liberia's signatures on it. He always promoted Liberia. I know people have misgiving and all that, but watch that video because it gives you timeline for where Liberia was, both economically, educational, social life, political life, to how it catapults all the way to what it was before his death. You guys, I will find it and share with you guys, but I hope you can watch it, and then maybe we can have a segment on that, because that would tell you, wow, how then, way long time ago, that these people were on the right trajectory, and today we're declining. So with international agreement that we signed on our previous government, we have to honor them, because that's what international relations is all about. That's what international law and rules of law, rule-based order is based on. I can't sign a deal with you. Oh well, fuck it. You signed a deal with my son, it's not working, so we cancel it. No, we can't do that, right? I mean, I would like to, honestly. But we have to honor them. The thing that we need to learn lesson from those, prior arrangement, to not make those mistakes again. We should learn from it, but apparently we don't seem to learn from our prior mistake, and we may even worse than the prior one. So to me, that would be my response to that. Yes, we have to honor, bilateral agreement that we have with, friendly nations, because people invested their money and time. Yeah, we made, sense to screw us people to make those negotiations for her and to screw the whole country, because they'd rather take $200,000 than allowing, $1 million to be invested in that community to benefit the people. Just give me the money, I will take care of the people. That's why we blame people. Oh, this company is located in this place. They don't even have no role. Because your people were negotiating to take the money that they would build the road, rather than the company doing it or making that as part of the arrangement for the country to function. So that's what it is.
All right. So we'll pivot to not. What's your response on that same question as we conclude?
Well, there's always time for redemption, and we can redeem ourselves. Like my fellow panelist, Mr. Kamara rightfully stated, we need to honor bilateral agreements and learn from those agreements that were made if there was any mistakes made. And I can say this, there were a lot of mistakes made. Unfortunately for us, we live in a world that might mix right. We adhere to international rules, international laws. We respect international laws. But you that have the greatest and biggest gun on the face of the earth, you can renege on those international laws.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
For example, we just saw what happened just quite recently. The Iran nuclear deal that was signed by the United States. Iran stopped the proliferation or stopped your nuclear program. We gave you $150 billion. And this money is owned by Iran, the Iranian money that was seized. Don't build the bomb. We'll give your money back to you. Now they wanted to have set it back almost 15 years to slow them down. And that deal was working. The centrifuges, the nuclear reactors, everything was downgraded. That deal was entered into not only by the United States, by powers of the world. Even Russia was part of that deal. Iran, don't build this bomb. We incentivize you. President Trump came, he rescinded that deal. Ripped that paper apart. I understand what Mr. Kamara is saying. We need to honor bilateral agreements.
Mm-hmm.
But you that have the biggest gun, you don't necessarily have to honor it. That's the reason why I'm infusing this into this.
Mm-hmm.
If we had the biggest gun, that 99-year contract, 99 months contract, 99 weeks contract, 99 days contract, 99 hour contract, 99 minute contract, 99 second contract, we tear in 1 day time. Firestone, we're not honoring it. You're not going to buy land for 20 cents or 90 cents or 99 cents. We tear it.
It's happening in Ghana now. It's happening in Ghana.
Yes.
Ghana is doing it.
If we do it, they're going to sue us. The APM terminal in Liberia, the Freeport Monrovia.
Yeah.
Johnson Sirleaf.
Bad deal.
Yeah. Nathaniel for 25 years. The Freeport Monrovia, you tell your container that a different group operating it. Yeah. 25 years. Any future president, for example, George Weah was a future president at the time Johnson Sirleaf was leaving. He came there. He couldn't do anything. Omen Barker still can't even do anything. The next president's taking 25 years. But in 4 years' time, President Trump can tear the nuclear, the so-called nuclear deal with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. There's always time for redemption. Say it has happened. Let us learn from our mistakes.
Yeah.
And start a new deal. Since America and other global world power have interest in the natural resources of our continent, specifically Liberia, let us now have a reoccurrence of what happened in recent past where our people was being exploited. Let us not allow our colonial masters or so-called colonial masters to profit from the misery of our people. Let us stand up for ourselves. If we don't do it, we'll go back to the same old thing. Again, it's a shame that the president of Liberia will give the only leverage, negotiating leverage that he has to tell President Trump, say, come survey for mineral. Come and survey. Is President Trump a land dealer now, a land seller? Are you coming survey?
He's Sonega.
Yeah, you tend to Sonega now, or Bayoga, or Jafuga, or Gamonso.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't want to take the time, but I just want to put this one line in real quick. Right?
Okay.
We're talking about African solidarity and integration.
Yeah.
You want to tell me the whole entire continent of Africa, we don't have people that can come and survey our minerals? We don't have institutions where we can send our young people and train them to come and do that for us. Huh?
We like visionaries.
But anyway, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. But I like how you guys has pretty much closed. And as we close, and I'm thinking about Liberia turns 178 years in the next couple of weeks, and for sure we have nothing to show for. Quite the last several weeks, I've been talking about Liberia independence. What is independent? Is Liberia truly independent? And if Liberia is independent, maybe she's independent on paper, but not in actuality. So, I mean, just so that we close, I know I had a last question. For those of you who are watching, we're decoding Trump's invite to 5 African nations, strategic interest versus African agency. I want the two of you now, in your closing remark, as you respond to these, or this last question, not these questions, we'll see. Does true sovereignty, because now we're talking about independence, and that's why Borkai will go there and will concede to everything that will be proposed by Trump. So does true sovereignty require economic independence first? And if so, how do we get there? Jiba, I'll start with you first, and you will give us your closing remark. Herron, then I pretty much answer that question, close the curtain, and then I will pretty much just summarize, and we'll cut it out for the night.
I mean, it's been proven. We see the West, we see countries that have succeeded. I mean, look at China. China was a third world country in the 90s. Honestly, Japan, right? Look at Indonesia. Look at the Philippines. Philippines and Liberia had the same, revenue in the early 1940s. Seen import, but look at where they are. You cannot be independent. You cannot be, independent when you don't have, a sovereignty of yourself in terms of economic, sovereignty. You need to. I mean, it's like, if you can't feed yourself, you will continue to reach out begging people. Turbo had that mindset, right? That's why he was strong proponent of non-alignment, because he said, a hungry belly does not care for where, the hands that feeds it. So we have to tap in. We need to build an economic structure that benefit our people. I think it's the miseducation of our people, entire continent as a whole, right? Because remember, we were people that were raped apart, right? We were ripped of our culture, our language, our roots, and we're given something that's so not familiar to us, right? We got people that leave from Africa or Liberia, whatever, go to the West, learn all these economic theory, and then want to come back to Africa to apply those things. Those things are not applicable in those spaces. Yes, you can learn. I think for me, what we call learning or education is to be able to learn something and come and, transform, right, a particular place using, the social, dynamic or cultural dynamic of that place and turn that place to strive, right? The way the Western culture is set up, yes, you go to Harvard or go to Yale, the economic theory that you're going to learn there is easily applicable in America. It's not easily applicable in Africa. But we continue to do the same thing over and expecting different results. So until we can change our whole educational structure, the way we deal with economic, the way we deal with, our culture and all that, social fabric that built a nation, that make a nation strong and servant, we will just continue to be chasing, this America that we call our big brother. They don't even know us. The president don't even know that we speak English from the place we come from. But when you talk to any Liberian man, oh, America, or big brother, America, no, they don't know you. Dude, you know how long it have to take me to tell people about Liberia every time I stand in front of a Black American or American president? So yeah, economic sovereignty depends on being truly independent economically. You're not serving when you can't feed yourself. You can't even educate your people. You have one of the highest illiteracy rate in this world, right? One of the highest. You cannot even focus on how to build that. So how you gonna? So all these groups are right now, us, God forbid, we depart the face of this earth. How many more Liberians left that have the economic, opportunity that some of us have when the nation itself is not, structured in a sense where, where education is the only priority, making sure that we have free, compulsory education, at least to the elementary level, at least free, compulsory. You go to Monrovia Street, you got kids still selling that is supposed to be in school, they're on the street selling. That's your economic, that's your servant nation you depend on. Those are the people that are going to make you servant in the next 10, 15, 20 years. The 17-year-old, the 14-year-old, they can't even, grasp the concept of your own country, how it runs, let alone the world. Dude, we got a lot of work to do, honestly. And that's where my other, idea about changing Liberia. If you ask me what we need to do, we need to do Abraham Traore. Honestly, get rid of the old guy, refund that people with light mind, and just reset. Liberia need reset. With the system we have right now, if we want to go through that trajectory of, voting people because they gave us back a rise or they gave us bonus or they promised us something when they get there, we would just be in this circle of poverty and deprivation, So I mean, I don't know, man. Liberia sometimes give me a headache, honestly. But yeah, that's my response to that.
All right, that would be your closing remark. So, Dr. Herron. So, what's your response to that question and your closing remark for the night?
Well, you cannot have an acquisition of true sovereignty if you cannot feed yourself.
True.
Ain't gonna happen. In Liberia, we have an epigrammatic saying that goes like this: empty bag cannot stand.
Mm-hmm.
Why Liberia can produce their own staple food? Every year, we celebrate Independence Day. Yeah, arithmetic is correct. Liberia is about 178 years old, or at least about to 178 years old, probably, that we're going to have from now. And every Independence Day, we have orators. Beautiful speeches are made. Those speeches have never, ever been translated into a hands-on approach that will have a complete upliftment or promotion of the upliftment of our country. My fellow panelists in person, Mr. Sekou Kamara, made mention of the educational system. He said at least elementary should be compulsory, free. You think the Liberian government thinking about that? In this country, we have early childhood development program.
Yep.
They call it Head Start.
Yeah.
The children can even talk. Sometimes it starts from 3 months because the brain is still developing.
Mm-hmm.
So what Mr. Kamara said, he's just spot on. A compulsory free elementary education should be all across the prudent plain of that country, free, and let the government be able to subsidize.
Yes.
Because, for example, some of us that believe in the educational system, we have a school operating. I use my personal cash to build our school, just to help. So if the government says free elementary education, the only thing they need to do actually and verify to say, look, my man, how many classrooms you have? Once we meet all of the requirements from the DOE, the current director of education, whatever procedure they have over there, once we meet the requirements, they say, all right, my man, for this district here, we'll be able to sponsor maybe 50 students in elementary, and these are the standards.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just going to recruit any kind of mediocre teachers to teach.
Mm-hmm.
But until we can do those things, we will continue to have good speeches but empty promises. Every independent day, check this out. I don't know who's going to be the orator again for the July 26th independent, but just listen to our orator. When our orator finished talking, you think that bro will be transformed within a twinkling of an eye. But it's a fleeting illusion to be pursued. Every year, different orator. Same old result. Like, bro, we have to work on feeding themselves first. That's the first thing. But let somebody explain to me in one sentence why Liberia can feed itself. Why? Just in one sentence. This is a tropical rainforest terrain that we have. Why you can't feed yourself?
Yes.
You go on a dumper, for those of you who don't understand Liberian English.
Yeah.
Dumper, it means the garbage site. Pawpaw grows there. If you don't know what pawpaw, they call it pawpaw.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It grows there. We're all
like
planting it. When you see one of those fruits.
Breadfruit. Think about breadfruit.
Yes. So how the hell we cannot methodically plant those things? I live in the state of Delaware. My wife and I just kind of taking around. Bro, you see corn farm, bro. You can't even believe it.
Yeah.
You see corn farm. I know they engage in mechanized farming. That's fine. Liberia can buy those machineries for our farmers. It's not hard.
Yeah.
So for God's sake, let someone explain to me why we can't feed ourselves. You can't tell me, say, no water. Because the tropical rainforest, it rains all
only on the We Too podcast, man. Only on the We Too platform you can hear all this.
Yeah.
Change your mindset.
Definitely. You know what I mean? Definitely. You can't tell me, say, you have to do irrigation. You got to take water from Guinea and dig water.
No. The whole country is surrounded by water, river, lake, and sea. You got it. You got everything.
So why you can't feed yourself? You get human resources in terms of manpower. Yeah. Liberia is what? 300 whatever square miles, 350 square miles, or whatever it is.
Yeah. The coastline. Longest coastline.
Yeah, the coastline.
On the west coast.
Yes. Brother, it's not a big country. So why we can feed ourselves? Every year we're finding orator. Watch this year. When you listen to the orator for our Independence Day, you say this guy is a genius. But asking all those beautiful speeches that you have given, is it translatable? He will tell you yes. You're asking why. He will tell you the people. The Bible says, my people perish because the lack of knowledge. Again, I'm Mr. Nathaniel Herron. It's a pleasure listening to you.
It was a pleasure. It's always has been a pleasure to have you guys. I want to close with a quote tonight, and that is: the imperialist never comes empty-handed, but his gifts carry chains. From Monroe to Monrovia, we have seen how the illusion of friendship often hides the missionary of white domination. Kwame Nkrumah-inspired reflection on Liberia's unique but compromised relationship with the West. Let me leave you all with this. An invitation is not a favor. It's a what? It's a chess move. And we, the people of Africa, Liberia especially, must stop playing the role of grateful guests and start being strategic actors. If our leaders walk into the United States meeting with empty hands and no agenda, and they will walk out with more of the same depth, dependency, and disappointment. But if we walk in bold, armed with the demands of their people, guided by memory and committed to dignity, then maybe this won't just be another page in the colonial playbook. Africa does not need patron. It needs what? Partners. In Liberia, let this be the moment where we stop smiling for cameras and start speaking truth to power. This is not about Trump. This is about us. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. Again, this is the We Too Our Liberians Movement podcast. I've been nothing but your host, Ayiti Williams. And on the podcast, we have our great Kamara, Gebah Kamara, and also the one who is 99.9% right most of the time, the great Not Herron. Thank you very much for us.
That's a huge accomplishment, man.
Have a good night.
Simple life. It's all we want to live. Give me food, give me clothes, give me love, and give me shelter.